Today we've got Tom from Bury Tomorrow. Super excited to chat with you, Tom. You are all the way in the good old UK, across the pond, as they say. How's across the pond today?
It's all right. There's been a little bit of sun, which is rare for the UK and especially like the north, because we're like halfway up in Barnsley, like near Sheffield and Leeds, that kind of area. So it's been uncharacteristically nice, and I've been stuck in this room all day. So, but yeah, it's all
just
good.
Doing interviews?
It's all good. No, just working. So I do production work. So I've just been doing that today.
Well, make sure you get outside for a second before the sun goes down.
We've lost it, man. It's gone.
It's gone already.
Gone,
oh
yeah.
shoot!
Shit. You know, something I've always been confused by is people from the UK calling the center of their country the North. And I understand that, you know, you have Scotland up above,
yes,
a little higher, but like it always feels weird calling the center of your country North.
I mean, I'm not going to argue. I might get exiled from the North for saying that. But
I feel like it's just a very London. It feels like a very London-centric perspective. You know, anything north of London is just the North.
Yeah. I think if you're in London, like Birmingham is north. Like we are right up at the wall, so we're a way away.
I'm glad that you still use the wall as a marker. That's good.
It's
Hadrian's Wall, right?
That's the one.
Yeah, hell yeah. Go Romans.
Love it. Well, let's get started with your just history with maybe before even Bury Tomorrow, like talk a little bit about how you got involved in music just generally.
Generally, like when I was like 16, 17, I got involved in like the local scene around here, which is actually where I met Dawson, who was the guitarist. And we were both left-handed guitarists, so we were friends immediately. And then we just kind of gigged around in bands in the same scene for a while. I went off and started doing production work, and obviously Dawson went off and did Solus and some other things, eventually joined Bury. And that ended up being my kind of link to me joining the band. So I've done kind of little bits of my own solo stuff, and I've been in some punk bands, and nothing really of any kind of commercial note. But probably 2021, then Dawson got in touch and he was like, do you fancy covering a few shows for us? I was like, yes, I do. And that was the start of it. But before joining Bury, like I work in like production music, so I do a lot of library, sync, TV type stuff. I was doing that and playing wedding gigs. So that was my job.
Wow. So it wasn't like you were in like some big metal band or whatever in the UK. Like you're just doing your music thing in an entirely different kind of industry of music.
Completely. I mean, me and Dawson had been kind of, whenever he was back and were available, we'd been jamming for a few years and just writing songs just for the fun of it. And then the stars aligned as it was to give us this opportunity. And I'm glad I wasn't a fly on the wall when there was the conversation of I've got a friend who can sing, because I can't imagine that was the so I would have cringed at it. Like, I'm so glad it happened and that they put the trust in me and in Ed.
There are a number of like kind of music production people for like, you know, commercial production that we've interviewed that are, you know, like kind of their passion is alternative music or heavy music or whatever it might be, but they're like full-time day gig is making music for commercials or whatever it might be. And so you're definitely not the only one out there that is doing heavy music and also was doing, and I don't know if you're doing this still or not, but you know, also doing some sort of music production for commercial kind of type of music.
Oh, that's very cool. I'm not sure. I'm not sure who that is, but that's sick to know that that's a thing. It's a really cool kind of. I find it a really nice insight into constantly being exposed to loads of different kinds of music that I wouldn't normally even consider listening to. And in that, you find little production techniques, and you'll find little ideas, and there's like transferable things between genres, and like songcraft seems to be universal. So I feel like the more you're doing it, the better you get at it. So it's I've been afforded a very cool opportunity to be continuously exposed to more and more, and to be kind of forced to improve, and wherever I can, I'll pull this over into like what we do when we're creating as well.
Do you have an example of something that's kind of maybe a strange thing you picked up in that part of the music world that you're using in the band?
Oh, a lot of it is just general layering and instruments. So the
Sure.
Sound selection and trying to find the right sound for a certain thing is. I always thought there was some magic sauce for it, and there might be for other people, but for me, it's just kind of staring at a screen for hours and like flicking through ideas and changing things and then removing things. So yeah, just the process of being patient, of like trying to find those things that like fill gaps or knowing where actually we should take things out of this section. So like, I suppose not so much weird, but just it's an interesting process to get to that end point.
The part about that part of the job that's always confused me is I feel like I would just be completely hindered or crippled by the amount of choice you have now. You know, I mean, if it's 30 years ago, it's a kind of a different story. But today, there's so much choice in every single aspect that I don't even know if I could make a decision. I would just be constantly questioning myself if I made the right one.
Yeah, that is definitely a thing. That is 100%, and they're the kind of moments that it's great to have. It's a really like inclusive environment where we all chip in and we all have ideas and we're back and forth, and you know there's agreements and there's disagreements, but it's always in service of the song. So like we'll get to a point I might spend like half a day trying to do an idea or something, and I'll be like, I've got no idea if this is good or it's terrible, so I'll put it in the group, and then you've kind of, even if it's a little bit right, you've got like a kick-off point to then take that idea to the next step. So yeah, 100%. And it's so easy to just be like, well, I love this library, so I'm just going to buy this library and then use it on everything. It's so you can get that kind of choice paralysis that you've got too many options.
Yeah, I can see that.
I get that. Is there any like music production stuff that you've done, commercially that maybe we would recognize? Like, have you ever has any of your music been in like some big commercial or movie or whatever it might be?
There is definitely one, and I can't remember what the show's called now. But a lot of the time we'll kind of write the ideas, they'll get signed off, and they'll go off and they'll be delivered to clients, and you never really know where it's going. When I first started, me and my friend Jamie, who have been doing it together for years now, our first placements were on like Sky TV for like a Formula One thing, and they were one for like advertising some Sky movies back in like 2018 or something like that. We knew about those ones, but a lot of it kind of goes off and lives in the world. But I found this one, and for the life of me, I cannot remember what the program's called, but it was on Hulu, and it was the guy Garfield who played Spider-Man. It was a series that he was in, and it was in one of those episodes, and I don't know what scene it was, but it just came up on this little credit that it had appeared. That's the only thing I know of.
Oh, so that's how you found out that it was in that show, was that you just like saw it in the credits?
Yeah, it was just on this site. I can't remember.
Wow.
Somebody sent me a link and was like, "Oh yeah, this is on here." And I think there's a track that me and Jamie did as well, which he was the main one on it. That was a recent one of the theme tunes for one of the wrestlers for the WWE, the Let's Go thing on Netflix. So it's currently being used as one of them. So that's a couple of things. I'm sure that they're out there doing plenty of stuff, but I don't ever really know where it lives. So we just kind of write it and then let it go into the ether, and hopefully.
So there must be things where like you're just watching a show or whatever, and then all of a sudden you're like, wait, I wrote that. Like is that a thing that ever happens?
Not yet. I don't really watch TV, which is funny, but it will happen at some point. I hope it will happen, and I'll put it out into the universe that I want to do something that ends up on UFC. Like that's my ultimate kind of goal for production music. But hopefully I'll kind of hear it. I'll be watching something and be pleasantly surprised one day.
You're on the wrong podcast if you want to get some music on the UFC.
Am I indeed?
You gotta go to Joe Rogan.
Oh no, I'm good here. I'm enjoying this.
Well, thank you.
Well, let's talk about how you got, just like kind of mention a little bit about how you got involved with Bury Tomorrow, where it's like, you sort of one of those things where a guy that, sort of thing. But it's just, to me, it's just really interesting. Like what is it, or maybe what's the story around like they must have first heard you like sing or something, and they're like, we need that guy. Like, or I'm just curious, like, what's the specific story of like their reasoning of like, let's bring Tom on.
Well, Dawson had the idea, obviously, when they went down. Pardon me, sorry. When Jason left to bring, I suppose, not just like a replacement or something that was seen as direct replacement, but as like a vocalist with keyboard and a guitarist separately, maybe, and just, you know, it adds a new dynamic to it, I suppose. But they were originally just going to kind of fulfill the dates that they had booked in, and then call it a day. But yeah, Dawson literally called me, and it was like, "Do you want to play Slam Dunk and then do these gigs with us?" I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely." And then we started writing a few ideas, and all of a sudden it's like, well, actually, this is kind of cool. So that let's give this a go and see what happens. And we ended up going down to London and meeting with a label, which is like, it's like one of them film scenes in my head. It was like, what's that? I'm like, you know, 30 odd. I've given up any aspiration of being like a successful commercial musician, and I'm gonna write my music and I'm gonna play my weddings, and it's cool. I'm happy with that. I get to do music as a day job, so I'm lucky, very lucky in that sense. But yeah, but then to kind of have this out of the blue, and there's like, oh yeah, you're gonna come down to London to like the Sony headquarters in London, and we're gonna have a meeting with the label, and we're gonna carry on. It was just like one of those Almost Famous film, like it was like a proper scene. Like, wow, this is actually happening. And then from that point, I may have skipped over. We had an audition, which was the most terrifying thing I've ever done in my life. so I'm the mate who can sing, and they'd seen like an Instagram video, I think, and then we went down to Blacksmith in Southampton, and me only knowing Dawson and knowing none of the rest of the band, and then you just got to kind of, all right, see what happens. Like, there's some boots to fill, and it's like at a level that I've never really done before. And it didn't actually start out that well. Like, I couldn't really hear myself, and it was like, this is feeling a little bit weird. And then we just kind of stopped playing, and I was like, right, I'm just going to sing at you. And I just did that, and we just kind of hashed out the way to sing different sections and what to do. And, you know, you don't have to sound like him. You do your own thing, and they were super supportive. And yeah, that's kind of how it all started. And then we played Slam Dunk, which was terrifying, because nobody, I suppose at that point as well, no one knew who the replacements were, or replacement. Like they said, there was nothing that went out about what was happening, so we kind of went on blind, and there were all kinds of like, on Twitter, it's like, oh, it's Charlie Simpson, or it's this person. It's like, nah, nothing like that.
It's the wedding singer.
You know it. So yeah, and
you know,
go on. Sorry.
Was part of that time, you know, with the audition and then also with Slam Dunk, just kind of like proving that you could be a good hang too.
I think definitely it's definitely part of it. I think that we'd only had probably two. We had a couple of rehearsal sessions prior to Slam Dunk, and that was still very much like getting to know each other, and I was filled with like insane anxiety about it. Like, I'm gonna get up there, I'm gonna forget the words. My voice ain't gonna hold out. I played out every single scenario in my head.
Oh, it's the worst.
Yeah.
Such an anxious feeling. I'm just feeling it for you, even though it's 4 years past, 5 years past, whatever.
Yeah, that's crazy. But then after those shows went down really well, it was super positive. We had like a little run of shows afterwards, and that were like the start of really getting to know each other. And then we had like the festival season the year after, and then we had the August Burns Red tour, which were like 5 weeks, and obviously the writing the album between that and the singles. So we had, that was all a process of like getting really kind of comfortable with each other and getting to know each other and becoming friends. Obviously with Dawson we've been friends for 20 years, so it's
right.
But yeah.
So you now have the new album's about to come out, but you're 2 albums in now with the band, and it sounds like you never really had, at least with a band, you had never done like any sort of music production and touring and all of that. So as somebody who does production. You were doing production as your job, as your daytime job. What was it like to then go into another person's studio and like have them produce music for you? I don't know. It just feels like one of those things where it's like, I don't know, like one football player coming in, or like one quarterback coming in, and it's like we're in, like, are we in competition here? Are we trying to help each other out? I don't know. What was it? One of those things where it felt like a little bit of, I don't know, like awkward? Did it feel really natural? What was that like to have somebody else like produce music that you were creating?
That's a very cool question. It was, I was kind of like fanboy starstruck, because the first person that we did that with is Dan Weller from Sixth, and Sixth were one of my favourite bands growing up. So to get to work with him for, I mean, the first 2 singles to begin with was insanely intimidating. We've gone to this like huge studio in Otterhead that's in Rugby, like a couple of hours from here, like a really cool residential place with like an art house and like land, and it's a great studio. And yeah, just because we took not fully formed ideas, but we had like demos that we'd built in my studio here, and that would pass between, and would make sure that we're kind of happy with how it was roughly structured. So we went with a bunch of ideas that then, with Dan and all of us, we just kind of pulled everything apart and put it back together and started retracking. And from that point, it just felt like this amazing collaborative experience. I think my biggest anxiety would have been that what I was doing wasn't to a level that was high enough, because it had been such a big jump from one thing to the other. Whereas I found the case was, it was just kind of applying the same sort of processes of writing and stripping stuff back and sound selection, but then getting to see a top tier producer who I've respected for loads of years as a guitarist and a musician, just seeing how he works it, and then like having this back and forth and just chatting. And yeah, it was a super cool experience to do the 2 singles like that, and then we had an entire month to do the album in the studio with him as well. So yeah,
a month is a long time. That's Sony money, then, is what you're saying. That's what Sony gets you.
Oh yeah, that got us. It was that was an amazing experience, and really kind of helped me and Ed feel way more comfortable having that time to kind of go back and forth with things and spend time.
Sure.
Is it one of those things when you're writing, especially lyrics, knowing that you're singing, and then I'm forgetting, you said Ed, or sorry, Daniel, with him singing as well, is it like one of those things where he's primarily writing lyrics, or does he like want your input, since you're also going to be singing a lot of those lyrics as well? I'm just curious, like how you all kind of manage the lyric creation process, knowing that you both are singing.
Yeah, that was actually super collaborative as well. Like right from the start, like Dan's got a really good sensibility when it comes to melodies and cadences and kind of rhythms and lyrics, and so I can sometimes go too much. Like I get off point, but like Dan's really got a really good focus on like, and I suppose like a quality control on like the right kind of melodies and ideas about lyrics, and we'll just back and forth, and again it's just in service to getting whatever that right idea is at the end of the trail. So right from the off, we were in the studio and he was helping me on the singing part lyrics, and we were going through like sections, screaming parts and looking at rhythms, and I kind of helped contribute where I could in that as well. So it felt genuinely collaborative, and I think it was a shared goal with all of us, that we just wanted the thing at the end to be like the best it possibly could be.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I would say that, since you joined the band, and not to dog on anyone else by any means, but the band has really taken a step forward, I would say, since you've joined. And I know you're probably not going to want to take credit for that because you're a humble Brit, and that's all right. But from my perspective, and I think most people's perspective, that's the case. Buried Tomorrow has only had a better release every single time that the new albums come out. And so far, from the songs we've heard, this is the exact same, right? I mean, this new album is going to be amazing.
Well, thank you very much. That's very kind. I think it's difficult from the inside to tell if it's like how much of a step forward's happening, especially being that mine and Ed's experience like goes to 2021. So we're not really aware of what it was like before, but it's definitely felt like a progression all the way through. And you know, for everybody that's, you know, stuck with us with me and Ed there and is still listening, like, thank you so much, and thank you guys for saying that. Like it means a lot, and you kind of get lost in like trying to get the next thing, complete the next thing, and you don't always look back at how that is. But it's nice to see that the perception is that it's moving forward from an outside point of view as well, because it's sometimes difficult to have a perspective on those things when you're so focused on the project.
Mm-hmm. To me, it feels like there's a lot more focus on dynamics, and there is a lot more focus on melody and extremely strange rhythms that are, especially vocally, that are very, very fun and interesting and keep you engaged for a longer period of time. It doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like, you know, metal music of the past. It feels like it's trying to go forward, and not just for you guys, but also for kind of like the scene as a whole, I would say. You know, because this is a genre that gets stale pretty quick, right? But if you add enough of those nice little flourishes that create that interesting kind of taste along the way, it keeps things fresh and engaging and enjoyable to listen to for a longer period of time. And so I have to commend you for that, and I have to thank you. But I am curious, when you are in the studio and you are thinking, all right, this needs just a little bit extra. This needs a little bit of something to just give it that seasoning that's going to make it memorable or more dynamic or more rhythmically interesting. How does that go down? Is it something where it is just totally a collaborative thing, or is there someone in the band, maybe it's you, that has that generally comes up with like a really cool melodic part, or that is kind of like that, like last mile kind of thinker?
Yeah, again, that's a really good question, and it tends to be like, I suppose, different depending what, like on the song, or you know, where we are in the process. Like Let Go is probably quite a good example that we did. I think so many versions of that chorus. So the original chorus was a completely, I think it wasn't as half time. It was a completely different chord sequence, and it was a different melody as well. But there was something like this. This just is not right, and I don't know what we can do to make it right. So I tried a bunch of different melodies, and you know, we tried some different rhythms and slightly different chord sequences, but nothing seemed to really hit it. And I think in the end, Dav sent me this pop song that he really liked. And I don't know what it was in that pop song, if it were like just the starting two chords or like a rhythm within it, but I was like, that's cool. And I remember getting like, because all the guitars had actually been recorded at this point, so I remember just like grabbing the actual guitars and just moving them like Lego blocks, and like changing the shape of the order of the chords, if you like, and then taking the vocal melody and just chopping little bits out of it, and then actually getting to the I lied to my last, because it was completely different at the start. So that's one example of it, but that took a few visits to the studio to kind of get it. And coincidentally then, because the actual guitar had been recorded, it completely changed the riffing for the chorus. So it ended up reordering the riff into this really interesting thing that we would have probably not thought of in any other case, because we'd written it in a completely different context.
It's just now occurring to me that when, especially now, maybe it was different back during kind of like analog type of years, but it's occurring to me now that when you're recording, whether it's a vocal, a drum track, guitars, what you're actually recording is you're trying to get a snapshot of something that then you can like copy and paste, or like you mentioned, like you kind of reorder in different Lego blocks and configurations. That like has never occurred to me before in terms of like the recording process and everything, that's actually what you're doing. Yeah. You're not trying to just like, and again, like I knew that like as a band, like you're not just recording like straight through, usually typically like in a room together. I mean, there are, I guess, some bands that will be in a room together and they'll record live. But generally, like in my mind, I was like, wait, you're probably just playing the whole guitar part throughout the entire song. Like you're playing the whole song, just one guitar or whatever, and you're just like trying to get it until you like nail that part, or you're trying to nail like the take or whatever of it. Now I'm realizing like actually no, you're breaking it down even farther than that. So you're just getting all of these little these like certain kind of blocks like you mentioned that you can then just rotate around on a timeline. But yeah, anyway, I know that's not a question, but I'm just like, it's now dawning on me that that's what's happening.
It's a really cool part of the process that when you're doing it on that scale of an album, it's like the actual undertaking of the feat, especially like with Dan and with Carl Bound on the latest record as well. It's like we'll do a line 30 times sometimes, and it's like, yeah, I like it, but that word there, or like, oh, shall I put a little bit of distortion on that bit of my voice there, or like, is the guitar part really crunchy? Like, are we hitting it right on the beat in that section? So it's like a real attention to detail that every phrase is the best that it can be at the time of recording it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah. Do you feel that? Do you feel like the scene is successful right now in the UK? Is it easy to tour? Is it easy to to have a lot of people come to your shows and stuff like that, or have things changed in recent years?
I mean, again, my experience is only a few years, but
right.
But I think we've been really kind of lucky to see a continuous growth in our time in the band so far. Obviously doing Roundhouse last year, which was the biggest UK headliner that we'd ever done, and this November going to Victoria Warehouse, which is another step up to like 3,500 in a room, which is
wow,
which is ridiculous. I remember we played the Academy in Manchester last time, and I remember being there the year before to watch Thrice, and like Thrice are one of my favourite bands of all time, and I remember watching it being like, I cannot believe that we're going to play this. And then to get to do it. So I think for that scene, the scene like Manchester's always been amazing for us. Like it's been the first one to sell out every time. And the same with every market in the UK. I think we've been very lucky. It's a small place, so there's not that many places
sure.
you can that you can do before you branch off out into Europe.
Sure.
Right. Yeah. Do you feel like, especially a band like Bring Me the Horizon, does a band like that, a UK band like that, over the last 10 years, does it feel like one of those sort of like a rising tide raises all ships kind of thing, where like because of their success, and obviously you guys don't sound exactly like them or anything, but I would say more or less kind of the same heavy music scene, is it one of those things where that just because of their success it raises the awareness that like, wait, there's a whole other music scene like this in the UK, and do you feel like you're maybe one of those bands that then also gets recognized because of the success of a big band like them? Or like I know Loathe is really popping off right now in the UK, and I don't know, does it feel like one of those sort of things where the massive success that Bring Me the Horizon has had, does that also raise the success you think for bands like yours?
Yeah, I think it can only be a net positive. Really, is like the bigger they get, like you said, the more awareness, more people have in the wider music genres that kind of it brings attention to it, and it's definitely what's good for them can definitely be good for us. Like the more eyes that we have on us, the better for our progression, I suppose. And I feel like the music scene generally and it is just really open-minded to a lot of different styles at the minute. There's a lot of room for like crossovers, and you're seeing a lot of bands like experimenting with different genres, and it's a very exciting time to be making music, and it's pushing boundaries in a really kind of accepting way. And if the song is good, is like that's the first thing. If it paints outside the lines a little bit, then it's probably quite exciting. So it's the quality of the music is primary, I think, and I've gone a little bit off topic with what you said then, but my short answer is yes, I believe that it is good for us all.
I'm curious where you get your pipes from. Those are some good vocals, man. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little jealous. I love listening to it, and I'm curious. it doesn't seem like it fits kind of the mold of what you generally hear in the heavy music scene when it comes to cleans, especially. So, what would you say? What would you say you've kind of like modeled yourself after? Who, I should say.
Well, I think that like number one vocal, and they're probably not influence, but just inspiration, is Tim McGrath from Rise Against. Like,
Yeah.
I remember having like revolutions per minute on my CD Walkman on the way to college, and I just running it over and over again. I'm like, how does somebody sound that good? It was like outrageous to me. Just it was that effortless like distortion in his voice and like flipping between, and his scream was so good. And it took me a lot of years. Like I could do no unclean vocals. I tried, but I just never really found that technique without hurting myself for a long time. So he was definitely an inspiration. And I was a big emo kid, so like I was massively into like, well, Taking Back Sunday and The Used and Dashboard Confessional and all sorts of stuff. I was in 100%. So there's a lot of that world that is responsible for my inspirations.
Well, it sort of makes sense. I definitely can hear some of those influences, and I think just beyond even your vocals, like I think just from like a guitar tone standpoint, and even Dan's screaming. And I've told Cullen this a little bit, but like it reminds me a lot more of like mid 2000s metalcore than some of the newer stuff that you're hearing now. Just from like the production value, the tone, like it almost seems like it's kind of honoring that past or like that era of like almost 20 years ago of metalcore. I don't know, like is that like a thought that you all have when it comes to writing and recording and producing your music, or is it sort of just coincidence that it kind of sounds, at least for me, it sounds like that?
No, that's cool. I don't think it's necessarily a conscious. I mean, I can't speak for everybody. I don't think it's necessarily a conscious thing to try and honour that. It's very cool that you feel like we do, and it's always been there's a byproduct of like maintaining that Bury Tomorrow sound in its essence, while kind of branching out and trying new ideas and refining our songs and really trying to like push forward in every way we creatively can. But if we're keeping that essence of it, I mean, everything comes back around. So that's not a bad thing.
True. Yeah. I think that's absolutely right. It's gonna come back around, but it has that modern flair, that modern influence that does give it just enough nuance difference, right? Which is a benefit, I think, all the way through.
Thank you.
Another thing, just around with the new album in particular, so I think the album comes out in a couple months fully. When people are able to like first hear it in its entirety, what's something that you're excited for them to first hear?
Ooh, I think there's the album closer is. I'm very excited for him to hear the album closer. It's a really different track for us. It's way more kind of, it's heavy, but it's got quite a lot of ethereal elements in it, and then like a real big kind of overlapping vocal sung outro. So I'm excited.
Is it kind of like a big build up kind of song?
Kinda, yeah. It is. I mean, it is heavy from the start, but it does definitely have that building quality to it. And then there's a mid one that's like totally unlike anything I think we've tried so far.
It's polka music, isn't it?
Oh, you know it. There's just a jazz interlude for 5 minutes in the middle of it.
Ska.
I don't think we'll live that down. A ska rendition of Choke. That's in the middle of the album.
I will say, I know I've never been a musician. I do think that, especially in like the heavy music realm, every closer needs to be a build-up song. That's just my own personal
I
opinion.
agree.
I
100%.
love if you get a good album that just has like banger after banger, and then the closer is just a build-up song. You got me hooked every time.
Yeah, those are like the legendary albums, in my opinion.
I feel like the one that builds and gives you that kind of big crescendo and payoff at the end is like is a motivation to go back to track one.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
start there
Exactly.
again.
Yeah, because you have to go back through that journey again, you know? Otherwise, that big build-up at the end doesn't really mean anything.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, like Under Oath has been amazing at that. I think it's part of the reason why Under Oath is as
Norma
legendary as
Jean
they are.
does it every
Norma
single
Jean
album.
has done that really well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. I'm with you. Well, you got any more questions, Cullen, about the new album?
You know, I'm sure more will come as more songs come out, but
That's good.
Yeah.
It's
Ready
not
to
long
go.
now.
Top
Not
five
long now. I'm excited
That's right.
for it to be out there, and I hope people enjoy what we've made.
yeah, we're excited
Well,
for it.
we're in fact, what's really funny is I think it was maybe sometime last week when we officially got this interview scheduled, and a few days later, one of our friends, one of Cullen and I's friends, texted our group chat a song that was a Barry Tomorrow song. I think it was one of the new ones, and he had no idea that we had scheduled this or whatever. And I was like, hey, we're interviewing them on Friday, by the way.
That's cool.
So he was I don't think he had ever heard your guys' band before, and so he was like really stoked about it. That's why he texted us. He's like, hey, have you all heard this band Barry Tomorrow? And have you heard this new song? It's incredible. And it's like, yeah, we're gonna talk to them on Friday.
I love everything about that. Like from our point of view as well, to know that kind of thing is happening organically, that people are just finding us. I'm like, that's sick.
Yeah.
That's
I will say, I think that the exposure of Barry Tomorrow in the U.S. is significantly lower than I think it should be, because you guys are pretty massive. I mean, you should be on the tongue of just about everybody who's into the scene, and I'm sure in the UK that's definitely the way it is. But I think that there's a lot to catch on here, and I think this album's going to do it.
Oh, thank you very much. We hope so. We're out here. We're out there at the end of next week, so we are hoping to find a few more people to like us.
Hearts and minds.
That's the one.
Gotta steal those hearts and minds.
Yeah, how many dates are you guys doing out here?
I think it's around 20, a little bit more. We're out for a full month, so it's around 21, 22, I think.
That's just enough time to get diabetes. Have fun.
Wait, have you? I'm sure you've toured already now, at least once in the U.S., right?
Yeah, we did one in April of 23, and then we came back for a real short run with Cane Hill around the Blue Ridge Festival that didn't happen.
Yeah.
And then we came back not that long ago to do a North American run with Electric Callboy, which was insane. That was so cool.
Oh yeah.
So now that you've been, I'm sure you've played now some shows in the American South. I always have to ask anybody from Britain or Australia, or, somewhere that's not America, because to me the American South feels like the most America of America. Do you get that impression?
The most America of America. It's
it doesn't when you think
It's
of
the most-
like American caricatures.
the most
It's the
stereotypical.
South.
Yeah.
It's so stereotypical.
Yeah.
It's got to be, right?
yeah,
Because it's the most ridiculous part of our country.
But yeah, I do love it down there. To be fair, every time we pass a Buc-ee's, I'm like, can we please stop? I want.
I was about to say you have to go to a Buc-ee's.
Yeah. I think the first time we went there, we came back with 15 Bass Pro Shop hats each. we went hard on the dream. We're gonna buy everything.
You gotta love it. Oh yeah.
Well, Cullen and I aren't from the South in America, and so anytime we do go down south, we always have to stop at a Buc-ee's too. And Cullen, you especially like those pulled pork sandwiches.
Pulled pork sandwiches at Buc-ee's. But what else I'm also a sucker for in the South is boiled peanuts at a gas station.
Ooh, I've
It's
not.
they'll
I've
just
not
have
had
a
that
little
yet.
section. Oh, you got to try it. It's so weird. It feels like it shouldn't work, but it does.
I mean,
Boiled peanuts. They'll have them this little container just warmed all day long in a gas station, and you can just go scoop yourself some boiled peanuts. I don't know. It's great, man.
I'm gonna try it, and I'll let you know. Where are you guys based?
I live in Minnesota and Minneapolis.
Yeah, and I'm in South Dakota in the middle of absolutely nowhere.
Oh, fair. Well, if you're not
it's
if you're not too far from
fun.
one of our dates and you fancy coming, just let us know and we'll get you
Well,
on.
yeah. Are you guys?
Yeah.
Let me check really quick. Are you guys playing in Minneapolis at all, or somewhere near?
I think we
Like-
saw them on.
You are actually April
Yeah.
12th. You
Yeah.
guys are going to play at the Skyway Theater.
Skyway. Wow.
Well,
Sweet.
So So yeah, I'll be around. I can hang out.
Perfect.
We'll
Yeah,
make-
let's
we'll make it
let's
happen.
do that. It'd be good to catch up in person.
Oh
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. So, yeah, I don't know what day of the week that is, but we can make it. I think that's a Saturday.
If it's a Saturday, I might be able to make it as well. It's a 5-hour trip for me, but that's okay. That's a
Wow.
short drive in America.
Yeah, I think that's a Saturday because I think the Saturday before is the 5th, so it's got to be a Saturday.
Man,
So,
Yeah.
Your
well,
your,
we'll see
your
if we-
short drive.
We'll see if we can make it happen.
Your short drive is literally 2/3 of our country. That's- you can go from London to Scotland.
To multiple
To
countries.
the north. I could go to the north, is what you're saying.
You could.
Well, Tom, thank you so much for chatting more about Bury Tomorrow. We're just super stoked about the new album. We truly are. And yeah, hopefully here in a few weeks we'll be able to see you in person and watch you guys play some of the new songs.